Hello, BookTube. It seems to me, I might be wrong about this, but it seems to me that we need a little bit of a curative mail haul on two different levels. First, I don't mean to be, to be ungrateful, and I don't mean to be small-minded because I haven't examined it, but that mail haul yesterday was a bit of a disappointment. I mean, the stuff in it some of it looked interesting. But isn't interesting often an adjective that we use as a placeholder until our favorite comes to the room? I'm not downplaying the tremendous fun, the wonderful honor it is to get free books in the mail at all. But a 6-book mail haul that includes a reprint volume of The Mighty Thor from the 1970s should be strong enough so that when I turn off the camera, I go to the rest of the mail haul before I go to the Mighty Thor volume of issues that I have read literally 100 times each. And this one wasn't even close. I went straight to that Thor volume and had a grand old time revisiting those storylines. So I thought that was curative number one, is that we could do with a mail haul that has a few higher points, a few things that aren't so much interesting as interesting in italics in all capital letters with an exclamation point. And the curative number two is that the mail haul should be shorter. My mail hauls have been getting, some of them, very long, and you people are no help. you have been emailing, leaving comments, you've been texting, saying, the longer the better. Make them even longer than this. So far, we have stopped at 45 minutes. I have yet to do an hour-long mail haul. And the way things were going last week, it looked like it was right around the corner. So, I'm hoping. I'm going to try a restorative mail haul here, a curative mail haul. We've got only 2 packages. This is just a morning's delivery. 2 packages came. And what we're going to hope for is that, 1, we get this done in under 40 minutes, and 2, that there's something squeal-worthy. It would be nice if there was something squeal-worthy in these 2 packages. Of course, the odds are down, because there's only 2 to choose from. But look at how many we had yesterday. And it was just, oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's interesting. I don't know anything about this. Oh, that's interesting. I will have fun learning about all of that. My mind is not closed, but it's not exactly a thrilling mail haul. So let's try these 2 packages and see what we have. I'm sure there'll be more mail today, but we'll. Okay, my assistant has materialized out of nowhere. She wasn't anywhere. Here she is. Oh, okay, all right. Okay, this is, like a couple of the things I got the other day, but oh my god, I don't care that it's all, oh my. This is a Penguin Classic. And not only is it a Penguin Classic, but it's a Penguin Classic Deluxe Edition. And not only is it a Penguin Classic Deluxe Edition, but it's a Penguin Classic Deluxe Edition of Jane Austen. This is Sense and Sensibility in the new Penguin Classic Deluxe Edition, with artwork on both sides and the flaps. And you've got French flaps and deckled edges and the rich textured feel to it. And there are our 2 main characters. Oh, what have we got here? A reader-friendly deluxe edition, edited and introduced by Devoney Loser, roller derby competitor and author of The Making of Jane Austen. This all-inclusive edition features an engaging introduction that explores the writing and reception of sensibility, a full glossary of 19th century usages, images, and illustrations from earlier editions. Really? This is illustrations. It'd be nice if I could show you one. But that's a problem, though. Well, some of you are going to say that's a problem with deckled edges. But deckled edges have many problems. One of the problems, I love deckled edges myself, but one of the problems is you can't flip through page by page to find things. You can make a flip book out of the normal process cut edges, but you can't. All right, see, so with, okay, yeah, in the back there are illustrations. Okay, fantastic. All right. Contextual essays on themes such as inheritance, sisters, gossip, seduction, illnesses, and pop culture. Wow. Starting to sound like a Norton Critical Edition here. This has long been regarded as a masterpiece of romantic fiction and a classic that has become a staple in classrooms around the world. Since its publication in In 1811, Sense and Sensibility remains one of the most beloved novels of its time, and its influence still permeates popular culture today. Okay, well, I agree with all of that. This came out in November, so this will be in your bookstore. And now that I think about it, now that I take a look at it, I remember seeing this in the hands of joyous recipients on Twitter and on Bookstagram. And I remember grousing, why don't I have that? And now I do. So it must have been some sort of glitch in the Matrix that I didn't get this in time. That I didn't get it last autumn. But that's okay. I'm glad to have it. Fantastic. All right, well, this would have redeemed the Mail-Haul yesterday all by itself. A Penguin Classic Deluxe Edition of Sense and Sensibility. Incredible. Okay. All right. Now let's do the second one, and then we'll be done. So we'll be well under 10 minutes, and we've already had a high point. So even if this feels fairly heavy, it could be a finished copy. But even if it's a finished copy of some brainless rom-com, I'm still not going to, because it's... Oh, this is always her struggle here is always the same. She pulls off a piece for an envelope, and then she has to decide, do I want to hold the piece I have, or do I want to go on to the bigger envelope? Oh my. Okay. All right. This is actually a double, and I could not be happier about it. Oh, fantastic. All right. This comes out in May. This is the newest volume in the Library of America. The Library of America is a reprint volume library that was started years and years ago by, among other people, Edmund Wilson, the great literary critic. Edmund Wilson, who is... He's a perfect example of a category of writers that we just sort of acknowledge here on BookTube, the DBB, deplorable but brilliant. So, Edmund Wilson is a perfect example of that. And he and his collaborators on Library of America had an idea in mind of making the American version of the great national libraries of other countries, enshrining great literature in beautiful uniform volumes. In the Library of America's case, they are, I'm sure you've seen them, they are, I don't think I have one right to hand, but they are nice, squat hardcovers. They fit perfectly in the hand. They're very durable. They have sewn binding. They have acid-free pages. They have a built-in bookmark. And they're very low, very light on the intrusions. For instance, the editorial, I'm not meaning to characterize them as bad, but the editorial intrusions in this book, even from what we just read, are extensive. There's a long introduction. There are notes. There's a glossary. There are supplementary essays. The Library of America famously does away with a lot of that. They prefer to give you a very minimalist approach to these texts. And since the thing is nonprofit and endowed, they're not at the mercy of the market. So they can just, their editorial team can just go through what's available to copyright, what isn't being guarded zealously by estates, and just make out what they think should be there. I think it's a fascinating endeavor. I didn't give it much. I gave it long odds to succeed, and it has succeeded. And it usually pleases me. The Library of America usually pleases me. There are some things, large number of things in their collection, that don't exist in a readily available form anywhere else. And even the ones that do, the whole works of Hawthorne, the whole works of Henry James, the whole works of Edith Wharton, sometimes that Library of America volume is better than any other. Sometimes you don't want the editorial introduction. Sometimes you don't want all the interference. And sometimes you want a couple of things in a really solid volume on its own. Like, for instance, here in this room, I have their great volume of the essays and book reviews of Edgar Allan Poe in one volume. And one durable volume, a volume whose pages will never yellow, they'll never brittle, a book whose binding will never crack. That is just wonderful. They have sometimes fallen afoul of me. The Library of America does not consult Steve with their choices, and they should. So, for instance, their slavish devotion to two of the worst American writers in the history of the country, John Updike and Kurt Vonnegut. They're printing every single word that either person ever jotted down on a napkin at Santoro's, which is kind of ridiculous. Stuff has no literary merit whatsoever, and they're printing it in volume after volume after volume. But some of their choices are excellent. They've done some fantastic original anthologies. Their volume on American sea writing is amazing. And lots of other things, too. We've seen some of them on this channel. And this is the one that's coming up in May. A big, thick volume. This is Cornelius Ryan. Look at that. This is not going to be the standard black on the standard just black design. Instead, it is a great photograph of the storming of the beaches of Normandy. Those men wading in freezing cold water up to embankments that are covered in German machine gun nests. And right behind that, as far as they know, right behind that embankment are panzer divisions. And they did it anyway. They waded on shore anyway. And this is two of Cornelius Ryan's books, his two most famous books, The Longest Day and A Bridge Too Far, both titles of which have entered the parlance of conversations about World War II. These titles have become part of the parlance of World War II. so you've got The Longest Day is about the D-Day invasions. The greatest amphibious operation in war that's ever been undertaken or is ever likely to be undertaken. An astonishing thing that one of the classic World War II subjects just gets more astonishing the further out you go. It's just amazing. And Cornelius Ryan talked to all these people, he interviewed them, kept up with a lot of them, was on board. He watched from the air. He watched the Normandy invasion, part of it. Had access to tons and tons of military reports that were otherwise not for outsiders. And he wrote The Longest Day, a big, very detailed narrative of that. That's incredible. It's just amazingly good reading. He's just amazingly good reading. It had 1 million paperback reprints. Oh my God, that little orange mass market paperback with a cheap blue spined paper, the rationing paper. That paperback of The Longest Day went back to the publisher. I think it was the publisher Meridian. I don't quite remember. I don't have that paperback anymore. But that mass market paperback went out in a large print run because it had been a Book of the Month Club. I think it was well respected as a hardcover, and the publisher thought they knew what the number for that paperback would be, and it kept coming back to them. We need an even bigger reprint. We need an even bigger reprint. Oh my God! You can't. As a result, you can't go to a flea market anywhere in America without finding a copy of Cornelius Ryan. And you know, it'll be moldy and it'll have those off-colored page spines, so that you might look at it and think, okay, this is just a dated old work of history. Next time you see it for a quarter, buy it and read it. You'll love it. And the other book in here is A Bridge Too Far, which is about Operation Market Garden, an attempt to secure the bridges leading into Germany over the Rhine that was botched from the beginning and overambitious to start with, and that led to not only some scarifying tight fighting for the Allies, and not only an ignominious retreat and defeat for a British army, but also a fantastic movie. It also led to a fantastic movie. A Bridge Too Far is a fantastic movie. Again, if you see it on Netflix or for $2 at a DVD sale bin, and you think, that seems like my grandfather's kind of movie, you're dead wrong. You're dead wrong. Watch it and see. If you watch it for half an hour, if at the end of half an hour you can voluntarily turn it off, then I'm the czar of all the Russias. Believe me, I have field tested it on muscular teenage boys who have the attention span of goldfish, and they could not stop watching. And when they were done, they had 2 questions. Now, one of those questions doesn't reflect well on them, I admit, or maybe on me, since I've been helping to raise them. One of the questions they had was, is any of this real? I had to tell them, yeah, there was a thing called World War II, and all of this really happened. But the other question they had was much more to my point, which is they wanted to know, that one of their first questions was, are all the movies from this time like this? Because they're ignoring them all. As far as they're concerned, American cinema started with The Matrix. So they ignore movies like this. They just completely ignore them. And keep in mind, it isn't like when a certain generation of my readers was growing up. Readers. We are all readers, but you're my audience, my friends. A certain generation of you will remember that once upon a time, there were 3 television networks, and maybe 5. And after hours, they did repeats. They did reruns of things. And there was nothing else to do except read. So you could sometimes, growing up, be exposed to those older movies totally involuntarily, and hence come to learn that they aren't all what they look like, that they aren't all boring. These young people today don't have anything like that. They have the whole world of the entertainment industry at their fingertips, literally. So they are never going to know. An 18-year-old weightlifter is never going to know that Lawrence of Arabia is Lawrence of Arabia. They're never going to know that. They're never going to know that the original Ben-Hur, the Charlton Heston Ben-Hur, is incredibly good. They're never going to know that. They would have no reason ever to see it. They would never gravitate to it if it was on Netflix and they had something else to pick. Same thing with Bridge Too Far. They would never think to watch it. And they groaned when I told them that we were going to watch it, and they weren't groaning by the end. Not at all. And the key to stress here is that the book is really good. The book is worth it. The book generated that kind of passion, that kind of creative passion. It is amazing to see Cornelius Ryan in here, and I'm assuming it's a bit of a technicality. Don't I remember Cornelius Ryan being Irish? Maybe he's in here because he did such quintessential American reporting, or maybe he became an American citizen. I know he spent all his life in America, almost. So maybe I'm wrong about where he was born. And not that it should make a difference. These are clearly American classics, and you know what this makes me hope for. I mean, this is great. I'm not slighting this at all. I can't wait. This is the 75th anniversary of D-Day. Amazingly, this is the 75th anniversary. It's been 75 years since those young men stormed the beaches at Normandy. I'm not begrudging this at all. I can't wait to reread these books in this volume. It's wonderful that they're going to exist, that they get a whole new shot at a whole new audience, that maybe the New York Review of Books or the London Review will start to write about, that there'll be pieces about Cornelius Ryan. How wonderful that would be. I know already that some of them will be sniffy in the judgmental way of the 21st century because Cornelius Ryan became friends with a Nazi war criminal named Werner von Braun, a man who should not have been given a cushy job and a safe haven in America. Instead, he should have been introduced, to paraphrase my hated George Washington, although the man did have good ideas now and then. Werner von Braun, the minute he got to America, should have been introduced to a tall tree and a short rope. He should not have been given a cushy job. I don't care how good he was for the American space industry. One way or another, dirt from Ryan's life will probably be dug up and cast against him, and the point of the fact that he wrote two great works of history will be just overlooked. I hope that doesn't happen. I'd rather him not get written about than get written about that way. Especially since this book it'll be in the Strand bookstore, it'll be in your Barnes & Noble, it'll be on front tables, and that's great. That's just where I want it. But in addition to that, if I can see this in a Library of America volume, then I can see Samuel Eliot Morison in a Library of America volume, and that would be very nice. Samuel Eliot Morison wrote at the same time, working in the same conditions as Cornelius Ryan, probably wouldn't. Ryan always considered himself a journalist first, and he had a couple of great rules for writing. He always used to tell people, explain it to me simple. He used to say, explain it to me simple. Or he would also say, when you're writing a long and complicated work of nonfiction, and you're doing your first draft and you're wondering how to do all this, how to marshal all this information so that it's comprehensible to the general reader, and who is the general reader, and how do I know how to pitch this to? His advice was always, start the piece in your draft with Dear Ma and Pa. And then you'll get your tone right away. As soon as you start it that way, your brain will start to organize the material in just the right way. And then when you're done, just remember to take that off. So you're not filing it to your editor with Dear Ma and Pa. But at the same time, Samuel Eliot Morison was also embedded with the U.S. Navy, writing a multi-volume, definitive, insider, first-hand account of the Navy operations in World War II, given far more access even than Ryan was given, had ships shot out from under him, and ended up writing a masterpiece, a multi-volume masterpiece that you will see again at yard sales. Now, I don't expect the Library of America to do that, although there's a part of me that rather invidiously wants them to, if they can devote every time a separate volume to every napkin that Kurt Vonnegut ever sneezed on. I don't see why they can't do all of Samuel Eliot Morison, an absolute classic of American history writing. But Morison had them in mind. He didn't know, but he had them in mind. He wrote a beautiful one-volume abridgment to Ocean War of that long series. Library of America could do that. and the founders of the Bay Colony, or a maritime history of Massachusetts, or even One Boy's Boston. He wrote a whole bunch. He never wrote a book that was bad. You couldn't do his, I don't think you could do his freestanding biographies. I'm not sure about that. But you could certainly do a lot of his other stuff in a volume this big. Or maybe, you know, give Samuel L. Morrison 4 volumes. That might be an idea. But anyway, but that's the future. For the present, hats off and a golf clap to the folks at Library of America for giving us a Cornelius Ryan volume. How wonderful. So this is the advance copy. And this comes out in early May. So it's right around the corner that I'll be writing about this. Cannot wait. Okay, well, all right. Well, that's a 2-book mail haul, but I think you'll agree that, as luck would have it, this is an antidote to yesterday's mail. We are now back on an even keel, because this is just fantastic. This is having me squee like a little thing. We have 2 great volumes to have. That's fantastic. The Penguin Classic Deluxe Edition of Sense and Sensibility, with tons and tons of editorial intervention, the essays and illustrations. How wonderful. Just a volume to live in Sense and Sensibility. And we have a Library of America volume of Cornelius Ryan. How wonderful is that? How long overdue. This is the man who thought up. This is the man who wrote A Bridge Too Far. This is that book. And you hear A Bridge Too Far is in American parlance, not just in terms of the war, but just in general. If somebody bites off more than they can chew, more than they can logistically handle, you will invariably hear it called A Bridge Too Far. That's where this comes from. It's fantastic. Original era, on-the-ground reporting worked up into history. Rare, very rare is the person who can do that. Person who can not only report minute by minute on the events as they're unfolding and see them unfolding, but then when they're all over, go home, sit back in your study, and transform it into history. Change it from being what it was originally into history. Men and women like that come along. They do come along, and they do it. And it's always great when that happens. I'm hoping that someday down the line, the Library of America will include some of the foremost, more recent examples of that. Books like 1,000 Days or The Best and the Brightest. But I'll take this. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be constantly daydreaming about other things that this is not, because this volume is fantastic. So there you go, book 2. That is a 2-book haul that is curative, that restored. That was what ailed us. So we'll probably have more mail today, more bookish talk, but boy, oh boy, did I need that. So I'll wrap this up, and I'll see you soon. Thank you, book 2.